Hello, I'm Mohammed from Class 10A. I'll be reading a story written by me called The Future Unknown. The inky black sky glistened. The chant of the Usos roared as Paul Rosen observed the translucent holographic information in front of him. A mere 2% of the total, he thought. Disengage, disengage, disengage. The data then dematerialized. He was in awe of the gargantuan metallic building that lay ahead of him. This was Pallas Malum, which stood over Provectus Eremis. Provectus Eremis was the largest planet in the universe. In fact, it was the first extraterrestrial planet inhabited by humans after they first discovered how to do so, 1,000 years ago. This was when humans had converted from democracies to a universal monarchy. At present, the gold crimson throne of the palace was occupied by Regis Malum XV, who had been under immense scrutiny for a month standard. This was because he had exploited the neurotransmitters to acquire information and money to increase his treasury. The neurotransmitters were metallic chips embedded in the cranium of most of the population of the universe that possess an unimaginable storehouse of knowledge. Paul was a leader of the party that had been leading these relentless protests, the Revolutionary Usos Party. As its members continued the protest, Paul returned to his apartment to rest. He opened his apartment door with quite some effort as a flurry of dust rushed towards him. He observed the magnetic clock atop his desk and then shifted his eyes to the copper calendar beside the clock, 28/7. This was the day his sister Kate had been murdered. Kate was immensely clever and virtuous. Because of her wit, she had snagged a job in the Ministry of Regis. Upon learning of his empire's misdeeds, she contacted Paul, and then, an hour later, it was reported that she died of a heart attack. But Paul knew that these things could easily be falsified. As Paul felt a cold tear trickle down his face, he tapped the side of his cranium and removed the neurotransmitter. At Pallas Malum, Regis felt the throne slipping away from his fingertips. As a last resort, he tapped into the mainframe of the neurotransmitters of all the Usos members and altered them to clog all their synapses, leading to an instantaneous death. As Paul gazed outside his apartment window to nullify the veil of darkness that shrouded his heart, he saw millions plummet to the floor simultaneously. The massacre stoked the fire of rebellion. Paul went to the town square to rally the people. Legions of people gathered behind Paul, armed up with guns and unlethal ammo, and stormed the palace. Emperor Regis and his army were apprehended. Upon realizing that the Malum army were all mind-controlled peasants from the planet Kuwait, Paul freed them, removing their neurotransmitters. Paul was then elected as a new leader of the universe. He stepped upon stage in the town square and announced, "Us humans, we live and we die, but what defines us is what we do in between the two. The everlasting duty of humans is development, but development of only the wealthy is a dictatorship." That was life under the Malums. My obligation is to rebuild from this flotsam, and the principal focus of my policies will be cyber safety. We, the future, need to learn from the past mistakes. For does the future truly know what the present does not?